Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Chat with the Chief. As always, I'm the Chief Jared Mills, and today I'm here with Fred Kahl. Fred is the Department Director of Information Technologies for both the city and the school department.
That's correct. We consolidated about 12 years ago into one unit.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you have worked for the city for how long, Fred?
I started working for the city in 1972. Boy, that dates me. It explains why I have no hair.
Well, and I only throw that out there so our viewers see that how the wealth of information that you have.
Oh, yes.
Years,
Legacy information, but nothing new. So
right.
There you go.
So you actually started with the school, correct? And then kind of...
I started teaching drafting. And when drafting went to computers, I went with it. So there you go.
Outstanding. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. And a very fitting topic today. We're going to talk about some internet stuff, some safety, talk about some scams and stuff like that. Safety for the kids with their laptops coming out, which is fitting. So let's start with, what does your department do for the city and school?
We actually oversee a bunch of systems because, like with everything, whether it's your car or whatever, it's gone to computerization. So we started off just doing computers and end users, then went to email, then moved on to security systems, to your radios are all based on computer systems, the phones are all based on computer systems, in your cruisers, all that equipment, in the ambulances, all the telemetry gear as they take you to the hospital. So mostly we're involved in most every aspect of what goes on in the city.
Oh. So. Sounds like it's probably started out small, and each year.
Every time I go into the boss's office, I'm aware that he's going to assign me something else. So,
yeah, exactly.
So I tend not to go as often as I might.
Right, with the digital age, with radios and stuff like that, it becomes more and more in your purview. Excellent. I can say you folks do a fantastic job. The whole group takes really good care of us. Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to most of the kids, I say most of the kids, but the high school has their laptops.
That's not entirely true, because the school ended in a rather abrupt manner.
Talk to us.
So those kids that left with their laptops have them. Those kids that didn't, they were collecting them throughout the building, and they being the school administration and calling the kids, because the high school people are using it in classes. The middle school kids didn't have them home, so we got those out. And now they're looking at getting the 5th and 6th grade ones out. So.
Right, exactly. So what are some of the things that kids should be doing to use those safely, and some tips with that?
That's an interesting thing, because when they're here at school, we can do some things to make sure they're safe and not going to sites that aren't the best and things like that. But when you go home, that's harder to do for us, to help the parents with controlling what's going on. So the biggest thing is the school made a decision about 5 years ago to use Google Classroom, which is a service supplied by one of the big companies, Google, obviously. And in doing that, it allows us to have some controls on the kids, what they can do, and bigger than that is who can communicate with them. So if your kids are home using Google Classroom, you're pretty well assured that the only communications they're going to get is from teachers and other students and administration. But that said, if the kids go and set up a Google account on their own without school involved, now they're under no controls at all. Right. So my biggest thing is, I don't know if I should say this, but I'll say it anyway. The internet is a wonderful thing at the same time that it's a cesspool.
Certainly.
So you have to be very careful when the kids are using their Augusta Schools account. We have some constraints on mostly who can communicate with them. Good. As soon as they're allowed to go off on their own, now those constraints are removed. Yeah. And actually, I see that with my granddaughter. I don't even let her have a computer in her room. She has to come out at the desk in the main part of the house.
Sure.
So keeping an eye on what they're doing, and it's not because you don't trust them. It's because you don't trust the people that are trying to get at them. That's right. If you would. So watch what they're doing and make sure they stay with their Augusta Schools account, and there's a lot less potential for bad things to happen.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and that's always the safety talks the police give too. And a lot of times it's too late, but you hit that right on the head. A lot of the things the parents can do on their own to monitor. And when your child, and I have young daughters as well, and we've gone through that.
I've met your young daughters.
Yes, you have. You may have had them in school on the IT side,
yeah.
right? So, but yeah, and if you're getting a no or any resistance with that, obviously something's probably
really
up,
the biggest thing to do is to put them out where they can be seen, which is really the same thing I tell the teachers.
Yep.
Don't sit in front of the classrooms with all the screens facing the other way.
Certainly. Sit
where you can at least take a look up and see the screen. And again, not necessarily because your kids aren't trustworthy,
right?
Because you don't know, the people that are after things are really, really good. They dupe my people, they dupe your officers, they dupe the teachers, and they're good at it and getting better.
Well, that's good. That's a segue into our next part, is what are some of the things as being in charge of IT that you see on the city side? We get attacks and we get people
we actually turn away. It doesn't even, it's, people don't believe when I say, but we turn away about 10,000 attacks a day.
Wow.
I have a device that monitors who's trying to get in, and you can see them just basically hitting you. And there's a bunch of different systems or ways to do that. Yeah. But the biggest thing is our equipment will recognize if you're an employee or a student. It knows who you are, knows your password. So if you let that password get out, or if it somehow gets out, now they have a way past our equipment to get into the network. Yeah. And the biggest deal is that they're always sending things. And by sending things, I mean they can send it on internet websites, or they can send it on emails, the two biggest ways to do that. And the whole goal is to get you to click on something. If we can get you to click on it and it's malicious, now we're in trouble.
Right. And that's the whole technique, is
yes.
to get staff and your folks to not click on those items, to recognize.
Right. To recognize them. And I send around, and you've seen some of my tips. Here's one of the things that you see. And some people read them, some people don't. Yeah. The ones that click on stuff are the ones I appreciate, are the ones that immediately let a hold me. Yeah, I just clicked on this. I don't think that was good.
Right. So
and get ahead of it. We can do something about it. So.
Yeah, one of the things I know, one of the latest, I mean, it's been around for a while, but you'll get, like an email that looks like a Fred Kahl, but it's not the rest of the.
Those are actually
ad.
getting, they're getting more sophisticated. So if yours is jared.mills, now they go jared.mills.augustamaine.gov at Gmail or at Roadrunner or something like that. So they know you're not going to make it all the way to the end when you, oh, I know him, I'm going to click on that.
Exactly.
It's like, there's trouble.
Yeah, and they prey on that, right? They prey on people being in a hurry. They're working hard. They don't have time to deal with that, so they're getting trying to get infiltrated into the system. So very important stuff for both public and private.
And again, that's one of the reasons with the students that we like them to use their Augusta Schools account instead of a private Gmail account, because we can take out a lot of that stuff before it ever gets to them. And it's true of staff too. I mean, you see your staff with the same things. Every once in a while I get a call from one of your officers saying, uh-oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, police aren't exempt from that either. So we're all human, and that's what it boils down to. And it's all about getting that information out.
And it's all about the psychology of getting you to click, and the bad people are getting better.
Sure. So. And I'll close with the scams, and we deal with more of that than you do. But when you talk about the psychology of it, a big scam that's out there right now is with the IRS. With all of the stimulus money going around. And I mean, there's been IRS scams out there for a very long time, but obviously they're preying on that. They either use a level of fear, tell you you're going to be jailed, or,
And that's the same logic they use everywhere. It's just more effective when they're imitating someone in authority to try to put the fear into you to get you to click on it. And that's what that is. And like I said, you have to look very carefully at what's being sent to you. And when I say who sent it, not just, sometimes it even looks like the real person until you right-click on it and say properties, and then you can see where it's really going.
Sure, that's good.
And that's a point that you can do, is just right-click on it. What are the properties of this email? And it's like, oh, that's not so good.
Yeah, this isn't who I thought I was speaking to. Yeah, and it is. You're right. They use the fear, so they try to, threaten you by the loss of something.
Which is really the same logic you see in people that are running not computer scams. It's all the same psychology. It's just applied a little differently.
Exactly. There are other techniques that they'll use. You name it. The lottery scams, or they'll say that a loved one is in trouble, and
actually the one that's out right now is the gift cards for the boss sending you a request to go buy gift cards so he can give something at a party. That one's we took out about, I think last Tuesday we took about 8,000 of those out.
They're playing on the time, right?
Right.
Well, this is what we're dealing with.
Right.
And
they're not laying off during what's going on in our society right now. They're doubling down, which is difficult, and which is a problem for parents that have kids with computers at home.
Yeah. And
that's why we talked about being real careful.
Excellent stuff. And the final thing that comes to mind is always, if it's too good to be true, leave it alone, right? If there's a promise of something that you're going to get this huge benefit
or if it just doesn't sound quite right. Your cousin's in jail in Florida. That doesn't sound quite right. Although it could be my cousin. You never know.
That's right. We can't pick our family, right? So no, excellent stuff, Fred. I really, really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you can think of that we haven't touched on that you'd like to get out there to everybody?
What I like to get, for the most part, is parents that kids are bringing computers home, because the kids are particularly vulnerable. Watch what they're doing. Put them where you can see them. Don't take them to your room. Don't use them unsupervised. That's my biggest thing. And the kids don't like it because they take it as a trust issue. It's not. It's a supervision issue and this is what parents do issue.
And it would be okay for the parents to say that the director of IT said they have to
Absolutely.
do that? All right. We'll blame it on the city. How's that?
That works for me. I don't care who blames it on, as long as those kids stay safe.
Great advice, Fred. We appreciate it. And as always, thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you next time.